SEC fans, welcome to Week West. I'm your host, Kevin Bohannon, and alongside me this week is the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Willis. How we doing, Stephen?
We're doing quite kind of well. We're doing pretty good. I'm sorry about pinch hitting for our associate producer Jake Thomas coming in here, but I'll do the best I can, and we'll talk about the three meager teams participating this week in SEC football in the West.
Yeah, we're in that part of the season where teams are taking their bye weeks, taking their $600,000 mid-year blowout. So yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about, but we're going to review last week, talk a little bit about what's going on this week, and then look ahead, make a couple of far out predictions on how we see the playoffs, the Heisman, some bowls, and how everything could shake out for the SEC, particularly in the SEC West. So let's jump right into it. The week 8 was really light on the schedule. Arkansas took care of business against Arkansas Pine Bluff, the first time that Arkansas has played an in-state opponent in 44 years. It went about as we thought it would. Arkansas wins 45-3. The game of the week last week, of course, Ole Miss took care of business, got down early, 7-0, then went on a run, 31 straight. They beat LSU 31-17. I wanted to get your input on this, Stephen. Matt Corral hasn't had two back-to-back games. He hasn't thrown the ball really well. The passing game's not clicked. Have they shown that they're more than just a fun-and-gun offense?
Well, I think what happened is Matt Corral against LSU was about 50%. He couldn't push off on his throwing the ball, so that's the reason they didn't throw the ball. They didn't have to. Those running backs, when that running game gets going, as you well know, with what goes on in Arkansas, that offense is incredibly tough to stop.
Yeah,
and that all those running backs got clicking. There's been some one running back each week steals the show, and this past week it was kind of Jerry and Ely, even though Snoop Connor went for over 100. But Ely being back has a chance to make a run at the end of the season, and if they can get out of Jordan-Hare with a W and get to 7-1, this has a chance to be a really special season.
Yeah, and I think I sent you a text message while I was watching the game last week. I said Jerry and Ely made that touchdown run where he juked a guy out of a jock strap, and sprinted towards the end zone. That just shows how special of a back he can be, not just in the offense, but he's a weapon in the return game as well.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Honestly, I wish they would use him in the return game, put somebody else back there, and let Ely take those hits from the running back position instead of on those planned collisions that is kickoff return.
Yeah, it's there are a lot of similarities right now between the Ole Miss running game and the Arkansas running game with the depth in the backfield. You got a running back who's not scared to put it up in there. Corral had 30 rushes a couple of weeks ago, and I think KJ had over 20 against Ole Miss during that shootout we had a few weeks ago. So they're going to be really fun to watch here down the stretch. Mississippi State took care of Vanderbilt 45-6. Wasn't much to talk about there. Alabama, Tennessee was close in the beginning, and then Alabama just kind of ran away with it. And then Texas A&M took care of old Cocky over there, 44-14. So not much surprise this last week as far as people were talking about. Oh, Tennessee could give Alabama a game. It's not. Tennessee's not there yet.
No, but it was a touchdown game in the fourth quarter against Alabama, and that's all they could ask for in year one of Josh Heupel.
Yeah,
they're basically a year behind me and our team, my team, and your team.
Yeah,
what's going on? Because it's essentially the same system. They do a little bit of different stuff, but they're a year behind. Hendon Hooker's coming back next year. Tennessee is legit. If Tennessee would leave him, Josh Heupel, alone, if they leave Danny White alone, the right guy. They absolutely hired the right guy over there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of Josh Heupel. Have been ever since he was a quarterback on that 99 OU team with the Fighting Mangini's running the offense. So it's funny to look back. I look back at some games from that 99 season when they won the Natty. And the offense is really similar that Mark Mangino ran back then, and then what Heupel has implemented now. It's just more technical version, I think you could say. More shifts, motions, but it's a lot of the same offense, so it's a lot of fun to watch. So, that's all the week for week 8. Looking ahead to week 9, 4 games on the slate this week. We're really rolling along right here, getting ready for the stretch run that we'll talk about. Okay, so Missouri and Vanderbilt, we're not even going to talk about because that's just a bad game. Georgia and Florida, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Florida is the home team in this one. Steven, do you think Georgia wins this by 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, this is marginally better than Mizzou and Vandy, which I call a friends and family game because those are the only people that are going to be watching it.
If that.
And yeah, Georgia and Florida is not much better. What Florida is going to try to do is going to remind people what Dak Prescott and Dan Mullen used to do, try and do against Alabama back in the day. And Alabama would end up winning 35-0. It's going to look remarkably like that game.
I don't see how Florida can move the ball being so one dimensional. Mm-hmm. So, I'm with you. I see a 21-24, hell, even 28-point win for Georgia this week. Really good game. Like you mentioned earlier, Jordan Hare, Ole Miss visiting. As you have said, this is their game of the year so far, and as Ole Miss goes along and they're on that precipice on the outside of really getting in a hunt for the playoff, which November 2nd, next Tuesday, the first college football playoff rankings will be revealed on ESPN. I think at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 Eastern. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think Ole Miss wins it pretty handedly just because having seen both teams multiple times, I think Ole Miss is, if everybody's healthy. So the biggest thing we want to find out from you, Steven, is what's the injury report right now for the Rebs?
Yeah, I think Braylon Sanders is going to try and go. We're not quite there with Jonathan Mingo. Ben Brown, the right guard, is out for the season. That's a tough break, but he was out for LSU and they ran for 266.
Yeah.
Braylon Sanders being back will help. Casey Kelly at tight end, I think that is starting to turn in because we know in this offense they love the tight end. Well, you might not know at this point.
We need one. Yeah.
Yeah. But in this offense, they love the tight end position, and if you're there, you have a weapon there, you have an advantage all over the field because it's going to just create matchups for you. So it'll see. I'll see what's going to happen. I think Auburn is wearing orange face masks for the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Halloween?
Yeah. The old Bo Jackson look from back in the day.
Yeah. Okay.
And Auburn, the rumors is of a starter being suspended going on and several reserves and a bunch of stuff is going on. I think everything's going to go well for them. They're going to be fairly locked in because they have a top 10 team coming into their place.
Yeah.
And you're going to be up for that team. So it's going to be just like the Tennessee game. Paramount that Ole Miss survives that opening montage, that opening barrage from Auburn and moves into just a normal game.
Yeah. And as we say every week, of course, Auburn was off last week. Which Bo Nix is going to show up? If it's the one that showed up against Arkansas, they're going to have a chance. He was very efficient with the football, didn't put it in harm's way too much. So really excited. That game is 6 o'clock Central on ESPN. Number 12, Kentucky, bouncing back from their loss against Georgia. They visit the Pirate and Mississippi State. Kind of an intriguing game because, everybody's looking at Kentucky, being that number 2 team right there in the East. Is this a trap? Call it a trap game, whatever. But is this a game they could lose at Mississippi State?
I don't know. Now, if Mark Stoops in Kentucky comes out and tries to play Kentucky straight up like Texas A&M did, they're in trouble because every play is a man beater in that offense. But if they come out and play drop 8, just drop 8, which is what they did last year, the defense of Kentucky outscored Mississippi State's offense last year.
Right.
So I don't think Mississippi State can win that game. So it all comes down to whether or not Kentucky decides to play them straight up, or they try to just do the drop 8 and the patient thing and just let them go.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. Of course, it's at the same time, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and it will be on SEC Network. So the SEC Network game on 2 o'clock. There's no 11 o'clock SEC game this week. The cocktail parties on CBS, and then you got the nightcap, Ole Miss and Auburn on ESPN, Kentucky, Mississippi State on SEC Network.
Well, that says a lot about that Vandy Missouri game that they did not put that at 11 o'clock, and they just said, hey, no, we'll put that opposite of the cocktail party. We don't want anybody to see that.
Middle of the day, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to watch it. So
Oh, by the
everybody
way,
else in the SEC is off this week, including Arkansas, Alabama. Arkansas comes back next week with a big game against Mississippi State. So hopefully Kentucky can whoop up on them a little bit. So
Mississippi State is going with their baseball logo that's on the front of their hats and
yeah,
the side of their helmets this weekend.
they got which is really. I'm glad you brought that up. They got their rings in today, and they look really good. Congratulations to all those guys down there. I know they had a really good season, even though we swept them. Or Arkansas swept them. I wasn't there, but they got hot at the right time. Really good staff. Landon Sims, that whole pitching staff was really impressive down the stretch. So give it up to the boys in Starkville. They'll be celebrating the baseball team this weekend. Maybe they need to stick with that MS interlocking MS on those helmets.
It looks good. Well. I want to see what it looks like on the field. Obviously, that's at the same time, so I'm going to have to catch the highlights. But I'm interested to see what that looks like because it's better than that cartoon logo they have normally.
Yeah, or when they do the white matte helmets with the big bulldog on the side, like Boise does the Bronco.
Yeah,
that's bad. It's terrible. The gold
yeah.
jerseys, the gold.
They have Adidas jersey, and is there anything worse in this country than Adidas jerseys in college football? It's absolutely terrible.
Garbage.
I mean, A&M looks all right, and that's just because they said, okay, let's keep this simple.
Yeah.
And go crazy.
We're not messing with tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's keep this very, very simple. But you look at like Miami. Miami's trying to get back to what they were. They're not going to do that with Adidas. They're just not.
They need to go back to Rydell if the U wants to get back to their what they used to be.
Auburn can go back to Russell Athletic.
There you go. Do you remember Apex?
Yes.
Arkansas went with Apex in the '95 season, and they had the hog on their shoulder pad that you could see from the International Space Station.
That was like Danny Ford, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Danny Ford. Short run right before Houston Nutt. So, and then what we call the modern era of Arkansas football now.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Houston had a weird thing about the name on the front of the shirt with Arkansas. So the Darren McFadden year, they introduced the Arkansas across the front.
Yeah, which is what we had now.
Yeah, and now everybody's going back to a certain thing, but that was kind of a Houston whim type thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily an Arkansas thing because Classic to me was back when Quinn Grovey and those guys were calling the shots in Arkansas. That was Arkansas to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that first game I went to back in the 80s was Arkansas and Miami. So, yeah, the classic red and white, cardinal and white with nothing but the name on the back and the hog on the sleeve, baby. Sometimes I wish we'd go back to that. The last time they did something like that was 2014 against Alabama. They were celebrating the 64 national championship. It was at Fayetteville. They did the old school jerseys, and it looked sweet. It was raining. Should have beat Alabama that day, lost 14-13. So, maybe we're getting back to those days where we can give them a push.
Well, I'm waiting to see. I've seen it one time in the last 30 years, and that was against Vanderbilt on a throwback for the Chucky Mullins thing. But I want to see the Navy jerseys with the powder blue helmet.
Yeah, that's really. I saw something posted. I think it was on some social media, maybe on Twitter today, about Chucky Mullins. It's been 30. What was it? 30-something years.
It would be 32. It was
32.
This day in '89. Yeah.
So always think about that every time I see the number, especially at Ole Miss. That was a big deal. So good luck to the Rebs this weekend.
Yeah, I remember exactly where it was, and I was 13 years old when that happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, look at the stretch run right here. We want to talk about. All right. So in the Heisman race right now, basically you have four guys, according to the powers that be at ESPN. Mm-hmm. And you've got two from the SEC. You got Matt Corral, of course. You got our man over at Alabama calling the shots, Young. And then you got Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, who has a about a 12-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and then C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, who is number 2 in the nation in touchdown efficiency or passing efficiency right now. The two guys outside of the SEC are playing well. Pittsburgh, Pickett did well against Clemson last week. Clemson being 4-3 right now, biggest shocker of all year because of their 4-3, and DJ Ukulele has been a bust at this point. He's Ryan Leaf.
Yeah, wait, real quick about Clemson. They're going to bench DJ Ukulele. You couldn't pronounce his last name, and they bring somebody then you have no chance to pronounce his last name. Good grief.
Yeah. Of course, Georgia has the big QB debate going on right now too. JT Daniels or Stetson Bennett. It's kind of like back Nebraska 1995. Tommy Frazier and Brooks Bollinger. Tommy Frazier had the blood clots, went down. They brought in Brooks Bollinger and he took him to a natty. Right there at the end, Tommy Frazier came in. I think Stetson Bennett gives them a best chance to win because it gives them another variation in the offense that JT Daniels don't.
I'm the opposite thinking on that. We've
Yeah.
seen what Stetson can do. They can go 12-0
Yeah.
with Stetson Bennett, no problem. They can absolutely do that. This is about winning the SEC championship game in the playoffs, and I think they need the arm strength and the aerial ability that JT can provide.
Yeah. I agree. I like the point. I think you can't go wrong with either one of them. We did see last year against Alabama that Stetson Bennett they kind of figured him out a little bit. I don't think they're going to put him in that situation. Bobo's going to make it pretty safe for him. And if you got the line, the running game going, they can play action pass all day long, and he can be a game manager like Jake Fromm. But I do think he's has the ability to bust open and have a statistical game that could rival a Corral or Young or Jefferson. So we'll see going down the stretch. But yeah, the Heisman race, I think it comes down to the two SEC guys. Corral's going to put up the stats every week, and he's going to win. They're going to win out. That's the way I see it right now. Young, if Alabama's there at the end playing for a SEC title, he's going to get an invite to New York. That's the way it's gone the last few years with Alabama quarterbacks. They put up the numbers, put yourself in a position to win a national title, get the invitation to New York.
Yeah, I think everybody look out for Bryce Young because if they win out and they get to Atlanta and Bryce Young puts up numbers against Georgia, Bryce Young's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah,
because that game against Georgia. If Alabama slips up against Auburn and loses that SEC championship game, and Matt Corral wins out, Matt Corral's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah. Do you see any way Stroud or Pickett or another wild card, when I don't see anybody else that could sneak up and win it?
The best bet would be somebody like Stroud, and let's say Michigan wins all the way out and they get up to third or fourth or whatever, and then they just get boat raced by Ohio State and he has a big game on a big stage.
Yeah.
Then you might see what's going on. But remember about Matt Corral. They have that game on Thursday night on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's going to be your going away problem. The last thing. Everybody's eyes are on it. No split allegiance what's going on. You can actually see what happens. So he could have a big game on Thanksgiving night and essentially seal it.
Yeah. And Kenny Pickett, he's got 23 touchdowns and 1 interception. Nobody had ever heard of Kenny Pickett before this year, even though he's been at Pitt since 2017. He's having a really good year. They're in position in the ACC to possibly win it. I don't know. I haven't looked at the ACC standings. I haven't really cared, but they've got a really good chance to win it right now. So he has the potential to get an invite to New York. That would be really cool. The first one since probably Tony Dorsett. No, Larry Fitzgerald got an invite back in 03. So he
Last
would be
time an Ole Miss Rebel was on the stage.
Yep. Ellie, love me some Eli. Good stuff. One of the best times I ever had was working the Manning Passing Academy down there in college. That was a lot of fun. So, and if you get a chance to watch Peyton and Eli on Monday night when they do the simulcast, do it because that's how those guys are in real life. Joking around, playing around, but and hopefully Marshawn Lynch won't come on there dropping f bombs anymore. So, okay, we got the Heisman. Do we agree that it's probably going to be Alabama and Georgia in the SEC title game?
Yeah, I'm not going to pick anybody to beat Alabama down the stretch. They could lose that Auburn game,
Yeah,
but that's the one game that they have a chance to lose, I think. I mean, Arkansas could slip up and make that game a little bit ugly and make Bryce Young a little bit uncomfortable, but I worry about them not having Jalen Catalon.
yeah, and it's going to be big. Of course, Jalen Cadlon is out for the year. Had a torn labrum. Uh, Sam Pittman has said he expects he might come back next year. I don't think he is. I think he's going to get a good enough draft grade, first, second round, to where he's out of there and he can start because he's been injury prone in his career. I don't think he wants to go another year, maybe get an injury to where it really hurts his draft stock. So
Yeah,
I think Cadlon's,
right now his player comp is Troy Polamalu.
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I would take that any day of the week. Um, so situation occurs. Alabama beats Georgia. Do both teams get in the playoff?
Alabama beats Georgia. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I also say there is a chance the way this is going because 5 through 10 are about to start chewing each other up.
Yeah.
If Ole Miss
Because they're all in the Big Ten. Yeah.
yeah, because and if Ole Miss keeps winning, they could go into that last weekend with the SEC championship game, 5th or 6th, which means
Yeah.
they would have a chance to get into the playoff if Alabama lost that game.
Right. I agree. So the only thing I would worry about is if you're in a situation like Texas A&M was last year, and
Yeah,
the committee. It'll all depend on this week. I'll tell you this right now. Where they have Ole Miss on Tuesday, we'll paint a picture. We'll give them a path to the playoff.
yeah.
I think if they're eighth or better, they have a shot.
Yeah. And like I said, when all these people, because 2007 is absolutely on the cards
Yeah,
right now. Yeah, weird stuff could happen. There's a team that could be 18th at the beginning of November that ends up in the playoffs. Something weird like that.
yeah,
So, like I said, once they start chewing each other up, if it goes chalk, they don't have a chance at all. But
yeah,
if they start beating each other up all of a sudden, and you look up and Ole Miss is on Thanksgiving night, sitting 5th or 6th, they've got a shot. Might not be a great shot, but they got a shot.
yeah. Because if you look at it right now, you got Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Michigan State, Iowa are 5 through 10 right there. So yeah, like you said, 4 out of the 5 right there are Big Ten schools. They're going to start beating each other up, canceling each other out. Then you got the Oregon factor. Oregon will most likely play Arizona State in the Pac-12 game. We've seen anything can happen in a Pac-12 game that takes place on a Thursday night. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, the last question. Does Cincinnati make it?
If they win out, they do.
They win out,
They've acted
good.
like a top 5 team all year.
Yeah.
And honestly, they deserve to go right now. If they lose a game, they absolutely have no chance.
Yeah.
Their only path is a perfect game. So if they lost in the American Championship game, they're probably going to go down and they'll be watching the playoff and in the Cure Bowl or something like that. So the drop will be precipitous. But
Yeah.
right now, if they go undefeated, yeah, they're going to go.
Yeah, and of course I forgot about. Like I said, I hadn't paid much attention to the ACC. Wake Forest is 7-0 right now, sitting at number 13. They're the ACC's best shot of getting a team in the playoff. I just don't see it happening. So it's going to be interesting to see the top 4 right now being Georgia, Cincinnati, Alabama, Oklahoma. If something happens and a Big Ten team is left out, you're going to see riots and people storming the gates in Indianapolis saying the NCAA needs to do away with it or expand the college football playoff.
Yeah, the funny thing is they formed the alliance or whatever you want to call it to prevent the SEC from getting the college football playoff expanded, which was in their best interest to start with, which they needed to happen.
Yeah.
And now they're going to see after 1 year and 2 SEC teams in the tournament that they want the playoffs to expand. It's absolutely ridiculous, and their alliance is just stupid.
Yeah. Cincy should not make it. They're a Big
Yeah,
12 school now.
yeah. Yeah. Cincy
Remember that.
beat Notre Dame. They beat Indiana. This is not a
Yeah.
normal group of five. Like I said,
He
if they
said
slip up, they're done.
he said Indiana.
But they're still a Power Five school.
I know.
Yeah,
So is
still a Power
Rutgers.
Five. Yeah.
So is Rutgers. Yep. So, all
Heck, I
right,
think
that's
Rutgers
going to
has
do it
like
for
four
us.
games.
Steven, I appreciate you sitting in for our man Jake this week. Best of luck to the Rebs. And also, anytime we're on here, Believe Podcast Network, I want to thank our sponsors, Believe, our betonline.ag. College football season's wrapping up right now, so head on over to betonline.ag, get your bets in. I think I'm a little over 500 on the year. I went 7-3 last week, so SEC's light. Get out there, spread your money around this week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite a week 9 as
Yeah,
WEAK 9 like it was last week, but there's a couple of good games, but it's kind of a thin setting. By the
that's
way,
right.
before we get out of here, what do you think about LSU not being able to hold a practice
I
before
think I think
Alabama?
I think a lot of that was conjecture. I think they can hold a practice. They just don't want to at this point because they don't think they could get anything done. I'll tell you this, Stephen. My senior year or junior year, hell, I don't remember at this point, but after our second game, we got boat raced 54-22. It was my first start as a high school quarterback. We got boat raced on the road and ended the game with 18 players. We were out there practicing the following Monday. Now, I know it's high school in Arkansas versus the SEC, but you can still get out there and get work done. You cannot tell me that they didn't have 35 to 40 healthy players to where they get out there and run a practice.
Yeah. Coach O is mailing it in a bit.
Yeah.
He
At
just
this
wants that $17 million check and let's go.
Yeah, coaches have already come out and said, anonymously, the lack of discipline, the lack of attention to detail, not the lack of being prepared. That was a big reason nobody wanted to be there. So they're just not there. I would be really surprised if they get to the point to where they're bowl eligible this year down the stretch because you never know what's going to happen. They could come out and play like gangbusters. The Nussmeyer kid came in last week, gave them a little bit of hope against Ole Miss. At that point, the game was out of hand, but who knows what could happen. But if they make a bowl this year, I'll be really surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for Stephen Willis. I'm Kevin Bohannon. Get out there, enjoy some SEC football, and we'll see you next week on Best of the West.